Hi, this is our final installment of our unit on economics, and we're going to cover the economic system called communism. So in your notes, you're going to need to take down the definition of communism, and then also there are some other links that you're going to have to watch some short videos on and take notes on them as well. So communism is defined as a social, political, and economic movement that aims for an establishment of classless and stateless communist society structured upon common ownership of the means of production, free access to the articles of consumption, and which abolishes the end of wage labor and private property in the means of production and real estate. It's a fancy way of saying that the people, not the government, because communism actually is by definition the absence of government. It is where the people collectively own all the means of production, distributed among the people as needed, and there is really the end of any kind of working for a wage, that people will work together to help our fellow man out of the goodness of our heart. Okay? So, looking at communism, we have first that communism is opposite of capitalism in that we believe in equality of condition rather than opportunity. If you remember under capitalism, we talked about that. We had an opportunity to go from rags to riches. Well, theoretically, in the area of communism, there is no rags to riches. Everyone is equal in their condition, meaning everybody has the same type of house, same amount of property. If there's no haves and no have-nots, then there is no need, no jealousy, and there's therefore no war, nobody wanting to take what doesn't belong to them. Okay? Ooh, that's weird. Okay. The next is that government really owns everything. They own all the land, all the housing, the means of production. In a communistic society, you might own some of your own private things, like kids would have toys and you would have clothes, and but in terms of the larger ticket items, in a true communist society, people don't even own their own homes. All the farms and the farmlands belong to the government. It's the government that determines what is produced and how it's distributed. So we've jokingly said that why is a chia pet made? It's because people demand it. And we live by the law of supply and demand. In a communistic society, government is keeping track of everything that is needed, creates the factories that then produce it, and then they decide how it's going to be distributed. And so in a communistic society, it is not uncommon for that government to underguess how much bread needs to be made or how many cattle need to be butchered that year. And so there's oftentimes in a communistic society a lot of shortages. Okay? The government, one of the big avenues of government ownership is the communication system. Television, radio, internet, all of that is owned by the government and then is used as a form of propaganda. So when we see things that are published out of China, it is because the Chinese government controls all of the propaganda, including the internet. And so like Facebook and Snapchat, they have to have an entirely separate type of business because they cannot access the same type of internet that we have in the West. People can get around it just like we can get around our firewalls, but it is very difficult. And getting around a government firewall can mean that you will be arrested. Okay? We need to understand that as idealistic as communism is, it is dying throughout the world. There are only 3 countries that really find themselves as being communist. Those 3 countries are, sorry, I have this out of order here, are, and then there were 3, okay? China, North Korea, and Cuba are seen as the 3 countries that still have communism. You will see that there is this link up here, and I will put this in the description. It's a 2-minute video that kind of continues with what we've been studying about what is capitalism, what is communism, and what is capitalism, socialism, and communism. So time for my drawing again. In a communistic society, the government owns it all. They determine what is built, what is produced, how it gets to the people. People don't have wages. They have, in essence, allowances. People don't have choices about what kind of education. The element of choice is completely gone. So the definition of economics is that it is the idea of what people make, how people make choices with their dollar. It doesn't apply to communism. Finally, with our communistic society, there is a short video that is going to be listed right underneath the URL that this one is on Moodle. And what you need to do is you need to watch it. This is a 5-minute video, about 5.5 minutes, and it's done by WatchMojo.com. WatchMojo.com is one of the fastest growing companies in Canada, and it is just a video channel. And this particular episode tells us about the 5 facts of communism. Before you watch the video, though, I would have you write down these terms, because these terms are going to appear in the video, and these are going to be terms that are going to show up on your test in our discussion. So we have Karl Marx. You know what? I'm going to put Frederick Engels up here. Okay. You need to find out who they are. Okay. Then you need to find out what artists as enemies means. Okay. And that's having to do with the movie industry. Okay. Where did the Cold War step in for this particular country? Okay. What does a utopia have to do with communism? Oops, I forgot. Joe McCarthy goes up here with artists and enemies. And finally, what on earth does communism have to do with the civil rights movement in the United States? These things we will be discussing when you return to class, and you need to have a foundation for it. Our test is coming up, and in it you'll be discussing what are the advantages and disadvantages of communism. So the fact that you don't have any wages, that you have simply an allowance, some people would not think that's an advantage, that is a disadvantage. Okay, but everybody's wages would be the same. Okay, it's impossible for the government to provide everything that everybody needs, so obviously that is a disadvantage. Not paying any taxes, huge advantage. There's really no reward for coming up with any kind of ideas, coming up with a new invention, so a disadvantage. But then there is no class system, no poor and rich people. The thing about communism, though, is fear is the way that they govern. And that, of course, is never a way to govern. So the 3 economic systems that we have studied include capitalism, communism, and socialism. And we are going to be reviewing that when you come to class tomorrow. Okay? One last set of terms. In a communistic society, they talk about the bourgeoisie, the owners and the capitalists. The bourgeoisie are seen as the people that make all the money and squash all the workers. That's why I have the word spit behind it. In a communism society, they see the word bourgeoisie and it's like tooey, tooey. Horrible, horrible swear word. A proletariat would be the words that would define the workers, the everyday people, maybe even Trump supporters. I have the word proletariat unite because that actually was a slogan for Poland when Poland was breaking away from the Soviet Union. They said, get out capitalists, unite proletariat. All right, so we will see you guys soon. Make sure that you get all the notes necessary to finish.